So there's two things in talking about our religious liberties, there's two things that impact it. Number one is CBDCs, because obviously the government can restrict how much CBDC you get based on your behavior. There's also, the second thing is tokenization of all private assets on the global unified ledger. This was announced in a plan in an annual report from the Bank of International Settlements. In June 20 of 2023, the Bank of International Settlements released one chapter of their annual report, and it was titled Blueprint for the Future Monetary System, Improving the Old, Enabling the New. And in this report, they outlined their plan for a global unified ledger and tokenization of all privately held property. Now that would be your car, your house, any bank deposits you have, any securities that you own, anything that you own that has value, that's registered with some authority, those would be tokenized, and they would exist on this programmable global unified ledger. So you don't have control over your objects, your items, they would. According to the report, in a tokenized setting, money or assets become executable objects that are maintained on programmable platforms. Tokens are not merely digital entries in a database, rather they integrate the records of the underlying asset normally found in a traditional database with the rules and logic governing the transfer process for that asset. And this is the diagram that you see. This is the diagram that they show in the report. So the token would be encoded with smart contracts, and it would be encoded with rules and regulations about the asset, how you could own the asset, how you could retain ownership of your asset, how you could transfer the asset, if you could transfer the asset. That all would be programmed into the digital token. The report defines tokenization as a process of recording claims on financial or real assets that exist on a traditional ledger on a programmable platform. And the report also states that, let's get back to, it's a little tough to see on this slide. The report also states that the data environment of the unified ledger, the global unified ledger would have a data environment that would encompass all tokenized assets plus all information necessary to incorporate real-world events into any contingent performance of actions. Thus, the unified ledger would not just store tokenized versions of every piece of private property on the planet, but every piece of information from real-world events that could possibly impact assets or transactions on the global unified ledger. That's extremely broad and actually a little concerning. So what would that mean? What would that translate in real life? We saw what happened with the truckers in Canada, right? People who were involved in that protest, people who supported that protest, saw their bank accounts frozen. That could happen even more efficiently with CBDC and with tokenized private assets. You could see your assets completely frozen or taken away from you in such a situation. If the government didn't like what you were doing, if they wanted to put a stop to what you were supporting, they programmed the ledger, they programmed the tokens, and you don't control your assets, they would control your assets. They could easily take all your assets if they don't like what we're doing. So in the context of religious liberty, if we're not worshiping on the right day, we could lose all our assets. But we should count it a blessing to be in that position. If the Sunday law comes down and we do not comply and we lose all our assets, that's a blessing, because that means we're on the right side of this great controversy. So I don't want to scare you. I want to show you what's possibly going to happen, but let's not be scared by this. Let's be encouraged.